Hi, this is Michael Uslan. You're listening to Batman on Film.
I'm vengeance.
I have given a name to my pain.
The Batman.
Always waiting for some Batman to save you.
It's simple. We kill the Bat of Gotham.
I'm Batman.
Hello, Bat family, and welcome to this episode number 206 of the Batman on Film podcast. BOF is the sponsor and a proud member of the Batman Podcast Network. Check out all of the shows over at batmanpodcastnetwork.com and follow us on Twitter at BatPodNetwork. I'm Garret Grev. You can follow me if you'd like to do that. That'd be fun. On Twitter, you can find me at Garret Wado and email me topics, suggestions, feedback, maybe your thoughts and guesses as to what we could even have further in the future after we discuss what we're going to discuss this evening on this recording. Of course, we're recording, I should let you know, it's the very last day in January. Why is that important? Well, listeners, if you are like me, you've been kind of feeling this season we've been in. It's been a season of waiting. We've been waiting for movies that were supposed to have been already released. We've been waiting for news on movies yet to come, whether that is what's going on with Matt Reeves' sequel to The Batman and those projects. We've gotten some tidbits here and there. What's going on with future DC movies under the new regime. We've gotten some tidbits there. But so far, we've just been snacking on tidbits. It's like we've been in the Fellowship of the Ring and we're living off that lembas bread. It'll keep you going for a little bit, but it's not real nourishing, right? It's nourishing, but it's not real satisfying. Well, that's not what we're talking about tonight, right? Today is not a day for lembas bread. Today we are eating breakfast. We're eating second breakfast. We're eating 11sies, luncheon, afternoon tea, dinner, and supper, because today was the day, the last day in the month he said he was going to do it, that James Gunn and Peter Safran unveiled the plans for the first half of Chapter 1 in the new DCU. It's a big meal. I don't know. Listeners, I don't know if you need me to tell you this at this point. I'm doing a reread of the Lord of the Rings books, so you got a lot of Tolkien in there before we get to DC. But there's so much DC to talk about, I certainly couldn't do it on my own, right? Even one guest wouldn't cover this. It's too much. It's too big. And it's too exciting. So I've got 3 guests with me tonight. Yes, that's 3 guests, and I'm going to introduce them to you now. Down here in the Batcave with me, we've got the man who likes all kinds of beers. Yes, black, white, Puerto Rican, Chinese beers. A merchant of Mixies mouthwatering treats. Person who, in my opinion, is always a gotta go. And he's the little white angel on my shoulder to contrast Peter Vera's little red devil. Welcome back to the show, BOF contributor, Mr. Justin Kowalski. Hi, Justin. How are you?
I love all your alliteration. I'm gonna have to take your Mixies what are you going to call it, slang terms? I don't even know what you said. What you said was I'm taking it, putting it on shirts.
The merchant of Mixies mouthwatering treats. I was actually looking for an M word in place of treats. I'll find one eventually, but I didn't have it in time for tonight as I was throwing the show doc together.
Hey, I like that you even put work into it. I'm gonna next time you're in Southern California,
I'm going to eat some of that ice cream.
Mixies, ice cream and cookies and get some treats. All right.
I'm pumped for ice cream.
Well, cheers, Garret.
Yes, cheers to you too, sir. Also joining me this evening, this is a video game master. He's the third Mario bro. That's what I like to tell him. He's the world's foremost Halle Berry Catwoman fanatic. And he's the best darn diet-friendly baker in the entire South. That's BOF senior contributor, Mr. Ryan Haas. What's up, Sheriff? How you doing?
What's up, Wado Tomato? I did make a dessert crunch wrap tonight for dessert, so I'm keeping on the theme here. So
How much butter did you use? I mean, you live in the
Zero
South, right?
butter.
So it's like, see, so Paula Dean would be like, that guy's a fraud.
Zero butter.
I'm
proud to be a dessert fraud.
Yeah. The incredible shrinking man. You don't maintain that fitness journey eating Paula Dean amounts of butter.
That is true. That's true.
That's not going to happen for you.
Yeah.
It would take a prime athlete, a true champion to be able to burn off calories in such a way. But luckily for us, we have a champion on this show.
That's true.
He's been a hot dog eating champion. He's been a punt, pass, and kick world record holder. I think he swam the English Canal at some point. I know he's been an elite sheep shearer and the winner of the 1984 Dolly Parton lookalike contest, the champion of Long Island, BOF contributor Eric Holzmann, back on the podcast after an extended absence.
Hey, you forgot his prom date, tally as well.
5 prom goer tour. I don't know.
In one night. The man went to 5 different proms.
Santa Claus doesn't stop by more houses at nighttime than this guy does.
Wow, I don't even know. I thought Pete's introductions were
I've said this for a long time, man. I listen anytime any of my buddies do shows, I check out every episode because, we're pals in a long distance way. So we don't get a lot of hang time together. So I put the podcast on. It's like hanging out with my buddies. And I love the stuff you guys do over at Straight Outta Gotham. I love a news show. We're doing kind of a news show tonight. But my favorite thing about that show is the introductions. Every single week, it makes me smile.
We need a supercut of every intro because it would be
gosh, that could be
amazing.
A whole episode.
Absolutely,
yeah, like a clip show.
We're 100 behind this one. We're actually at 106. So when you said 206, I was like, oh crap, we really are 100 exactly 100 behind.
For your 200th episode, it should be a clip show of like the best. Like goofiest Peter claims about Eric,
like a 10-minute straight intro. He's like, my friend, this guy, he did this and this and this and this, and he just goes for like 10 minutes.
The greatest thing about it was we never discussed that at all. He just started doing it, and that was it. He never.
I've never told you this, Eric, because I felt silly about it.
You didn't know about Rusty Piers before
the show.
That
Rusty Piers, a high point. For those of you that don't listen, for some reason you haven't listened to Straight Outta Gotham. It is on the Bat Pod Network that I mentioned at the intro. Check it out. There's some hilarity there.
Yeah,
do not miss it.
Straight Outta Gotham being a fandom pop culture podcast at this point is almost like the B side of it's like not the main attraction part of the show at this
Come
point.
For the wacky hijinks, stay for the dorky news.
It's like when Family Matters started out as like a regular
and it
show,
wasn't all about
and then
Urkel,
eventually it just became about Urkel. It's like that's what it's Straight Outta Gotham is.
I will say this: we'll get into the topics at hand, but Eric hasn't been on a show for a while, so I think I want to have some fun with him. When I've never told you this. You guys, when you first started doing the show, I mean, I obviously knew you. We were pals. We hadn't hung out in person together or anything yet. But when the show started and Peter just started doing that at the intro, at first I'm like, oh my gosh, Eric's really accomplished for like the first 3 weeks. He's
going to run out of stuff to say.
I'm like, oh my gosh, Eric's.
Well, they weren't so like wild.
They weren't that crazy.
They got crazier. Like
they didn't. They hadn't. Yeah, exactly. The time traveling element hadn't been in there. But listeners, we got a full crew that we haven't had a 5-some on a BOF podcast in quite some time. But this is a lot of news we're going to cover. Yes, of course, I already said it in the intro. We're talking about movies and TV shows that are going to be in the first half of Chapter 1 of the DCU, the DC Universe. Big news today. There's a lot of articles up. We'll reference a few of them. I thought Variety's coverage was really good. I thought the Wrap was really good. Bill, of course, over at BOF has articles up on the same subject. So you can check this out in a number of places. Before we get in the news, though, if you thought I was going to get all these guys
and
not play the worldwide phenomenon Bat Trivia game that everybody loves. I get all the emails about it. You guys said you can email me at garret.grev@batmanonfilm.com, and all the emails, my inbox is just more. What are you? More. What are you? So with no further ado, I bring you. What are you?
I'd like you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me. What are you?
All right, listeners. Of course, you're very familiar with this. We got a a crowd here. I think I said 5 some, but there's just 4, only 4.
Yeah, I was like, who's the special guest?
Yeah,
James Gunn.
Yeah. Hey, James, come on in, buddy. But we haven't had 3 participants in quite some time, maybe ever. But of course, this is the game where I give you a series of clues about something related to the Bat universe. And these guys' goal, and of course your goal at home, listeners, is to try to guess the answer with as few clues as possible. We are on the Bat honor system, which means no matter if everybody raises their hand, we're still going to go through all of the clues, and these guys lock in their answer. They will not change it just to try to look smart, right? So when they raise their hand, that's where they are. They do not change their answer. We'll continue through those. The first 3 standard difficulty level clues, right? Just kind of your basics. You get to 4, that's the giveaway. We want everybody to feel like a winner. It's like, second grade soccer. Everybody gets a little mini trophy or a medal at the end of it because it feels good, right? So tonight's subject is a villain. And you guys know it's a Bat villain, right? I don't have to say that.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, are you ready for clue number 1? All right, and away we go. This villain first appeared in Detective Comics number 66, August 1942, and was created by writer Bob Kane. What are you?
Oh my gosh. Was it really Bob Kane?
That's always was created by quote unquote Bob Kane. Furrowed brows, no hands raised, which means we will proceed to clue number 2. This character was ranked as the 12th greatest comic book villain of all time by IGN, and the characters has been extensively portrayed in comics, live action, and animation. What are you? Justin's hand is up.
2 of them.
2 hands up. He's double sure. Ryan is starting. He's thinking about it. Where Eric's not there yet. Listeners, we know you're still playing along. We'll proceed to clue number 3. This character received an early change in name to avoid confusion with another major DC character, and his origin was revised in the modern era to introduce elements of childhood trauma. Haas has got his hands up. So we got Justin locked in. We have Ryan locked in. Eric's looking for clue number 4. We'll proceed. Listeners, you are with Eric. Clue number 4. Fittingly, this character was depicted by 2 different actors in the Burton Schumacher films. What are you? All right, Justin, you had your hand up first. Everyone else,
yes.
Remember, you're locked in. Bad honor system. Justin, who are we talking about tonight?
I'm going to guess it's the duplicitous Harvey Dent.
It is Harvey Dent. Also, Two-Face would have been an acceptable
also
answer.
known as Harvey Kent.
Harvey
That's
Apollo Kent. Haas, did you have that one correct?
I did.
Holzmann, no hand up went for you, but were you sniffing it out?
At the end, the last one I did. Yeah.
The giveaway.
Can I tell you why I know?
Why do you know?
Because last time I played this game, I thought it was Harvey Dent, and I actually looked up Harvey Dent's first appearance.
And
after the last episode, and it was Kite Man. I was just like, "Is it Harvey Dent?" Because I don't know, for whatever you said, Dick Spring, and
Dick
I thought
Spring, and you went.
Anyways, so I kind of prepped by unknowingly knowing, but anyways,
I wanted to give you, fittingly enough, a second chance. Also, if you notice, for all 3 of the original clues, there was really 2 clues in each one. So just to recap,
that's why I put 2 hands up.
Really 6 clues.
Yeah, it was created first appeared in 66 and was created by Bob Kane. 2 clues. 12th greatest comic book villain, and extensively has been portrayed in comics, live action, and animation. 2 clues. Oh. Early name change, and in the modern era, they introduced that he was abused as a child with this traumatic element. 2 clues. I was leaving the right clues everywhere. All right, well.
2 actors, yes.
That is
very
bad.
clever.
Yeah, and at the end.
Very clever.
Actually, 3 actors.
Yeah. Hang on.
Not in Burton Schumacher.
In the Burton Schumacher.
Billy D. Williams.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Tommy
Lee
Lee
Jones. Oh, with 3 names.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, 3 names on the second one, right? Yeah. He's not an extra person just because he uses his middle name. Ooh,
This is the book.
But it is interesting how both of them have the three names.
It is.
You know,
It is.
Mm-hmm. Like Lee Harvey Oswald and like the Kennedy.
Right.
What's the other thing? You know, it's like, anyway, that's been What Are You? Let's get into the news.
3, 2, 1.
Cue music. Cue Becky.
Good evening.
All right. I did the intro. We know what we're talking about here, but for listeners, here's the way we're going to walk through this bad boy. The news we got today is that we are getting a whole host of projects.
Oh,
I think there are 10 in total, 6 of which are feature films, 4 of which are going to television. We're just going to kind of tackle these things one at a time. And we'll start with what we've been told is the first to come. He's probably the heaviest hitter, although there is a contender, namesake of the podcast that is also going to make an appearance in the films. But the big news right away is the DCU is kicking off the first movie with Superman Legacy, written by James Gunn himself. Guys, before we kind of talk about the particulars, what does it say to you, if anything, that this universe is going to kind of make its official splash with a Superman project? Is that meaningful, or is that just, hey, it's been, how many years? It'll be 13 years by the time, or 12 years by the time this thing comes out. Maybe they just said a dozen years. It's time to get this guy back on the screen. Or Eric, do you think this is intentional in some way? What can we learn from it?
It could be intentional in the sense that they tried this last time, it didn't work. So let's try it again this time and see if it works this time. That's the first thing I could think. But no, I think it is. If you're not, it's Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, right? So if you're not going to lead with Batman, obviously, which we already have a Batman, so that's probably why they wouldn't go that route. It makes sense to start with Superman. And yeah, let's hope that I don't want to say get him right this time. I want to say make him more likable, I guess, than he was in the previous iteration that we got. So that's my read so far.
Haas, thinking about the description they kind of gave us. So, let me just read this little quote here. It focuses on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. He's the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. He is kindness in a world that thinks of kindness as old-fashioned. Eric just said, and I'll say it, like, I really wanted in the DCEU for them to get Superman right. And for me, they never really did.
Right.
That feels like they're making a statement, does it? I mean, I'm not saying they're being crappy about it. I'm not saying they're taking shots with it, but that feels like, if you're going to make that, if that's kind of what you lead with, this is a statement. Is it not, or am I reading too much into it?
Yeah, it just feels like that they want to make sure that that's where they're coming from as the base of the character. The poor old DCEU Superman, he just felt like a pawn in so many ways, both on and off screen, just being tossed around, to set up other films and lead other things and be cameos and for things that aren't happening, and it feels like a good statement to at least be like, this is character focused and we're going to get this right before it like leads on to the overarching DC story. Not to say that but it sets up the whole story. I think one of the problems with, Man of Steel, which is, I can only say in retrospect, is that they tried to have their cake and eat it too, where they were like, oh, it's a solo movie. And then, maybe it's more, and maybe it can be a universe after the fact and kind of that kind of thing. And at least this time they are planning a gigantic story with all these interweaving properties from the ground up, from the start. And that's something that James Gunn even said is a difference than from Marvel, where he's like, this is planned out even more than Marvel did at first.
I think that's a really good point, Haas, and kind of going back and thinking about how we got to where we were in the last batch of movies, and this feeling very different from the outset, right? The plan is to go in, which means you make different creative choices along the way, right? One of the choices that I really liked, and I don't know, maybe this doesn't matter, and you guys tell me I'm outdated with my way of thinking of this. Justin, I was gonna ask you, for me, when I think these properties, I think big, I think fun, I think summer blockbuster. I know the summer blockbuster season has extended to kind of like all year round. Like it launches in March.
Summer of January. Yeah.
But what we've learned, right, is this is set to open July 11th, 2025.
Yeah.
Between leading with Superman to this universe, giving it a prime slot, kids are out of school. That doesn't always mean a family-friendly blockbuster, right? Like it's not reading too much into it, but the kids are going to be in school. You can go see this one. And then the description that we got, Gunn kind of tagged on to Safran. It says Superman's for everyone. That's a 4-quadrant film that should speak to everyone in the world.
Yep.
Between that date, Justin, and this description, what is your expectation or anticipation?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm still going to have some 4th of July hot dogs in my hand I'm feeling the truth, justice in the American way. I love what he said, because I think this is what they've missed with Superman as well. And what I think they did really well with Captain America is his kindness in a world that thinks of kindness as kind of old fashioned, right? Paraphrasing a little bit. I like that take. Again, everyone's kind of said it. Like, I don't know who said it, but you should feel inspired when you watch a Superman movie, right? You should come out feeling like, I'm going to fly. I'm going to be kind. I want to do good. And so, yeah, I'm really excited for that. That was the one announcement that didn't really like make me go like, oh, I'm excited. Like, you kind of knew it was coming, and I feel like James Gunn can write to that as well. If he's doing All-Star Superman as his inspiration, which I think that's what that whole like thing was the other day. Like, that's his his like, hey, this is the Bible basically, and of how I'm going to like approach Superman as a guy who cares for all. I think it's smart, and I think it's important to make it digestible for kids. Like, I still remember taking my son at the time, I think he was 3 or 4, to see Man of Steel, and I was like, oh my gosh, he just wasn't enthralled at all, only during like the flying scene, and then it was like done. I was like, oh gosh, this is and I like that movie, and I like Cavill, but it's like, this is why we had to move on. We had to move on to something different. And as much as I like Cavill and he probably still could have been in this film if you want to break it down, but it's done. You got to move on and jump into this. The only thing that I think we should, not we should, but, and this is a little thing, like, I just think the name is stupid. Superman Legacy. Like, I wish they would just do the first one, just Superman. We've never had a Superman movie. The first one was Superman, the movie. So this one would be great if it was just Superman, but maybe they change it. I don't know. Like, I get maybe Legacy means something about like him. I don't know if he has a son in this one. I'm like, don't have a son yet. Like, usually
he's supposed to be younger. I think they said 25 ish.
Yeah. So, but you never know. I don't know what's going to happen.
And what I immediately read into is, there's the quote specifically is talking about balancing his Kryptonian heritage and his human upbringing, like that legacy, whether it's the impact of his 2 dads or the moms or whatever it is. That's kind of what came to mind for me right away.
Yeah. Well, and I thought that too, but
you just never know.
Take time to get there is all.
This was the least surprising of the announcements, but for me, it was by far the most reassuring. Like, I think I hit the group chat up with, you'll believe Garrett's heart can fly, because the description here, like, Superman has meant so much to me over the years, not just because of who the character is and how I believe he should be portrayed and why that's powerful and why I think it speaks to people about, the ability to be powerful and strong and still compassionate and loving and aspirational and inspirational. But like Superman, the movie, I have clear as day, I've talked about on this show, memories as of a kid watching the extended version on ABC. And it was a major event for my family. I was very young. I think I was 3.5, maybe 4 years old. And it's some of my clearest, earliest memories. Yeah. And I would love to have a Superman. Not everybody's a dad. Not everybody has a kid. They shouldn't make movies just for dads and people with kids. But I would love to be able to show this to my boys and have this be the thing they can. And it's not wrong that Man of Steel wasn't that. I'm just hopeful that this can be, right? That's kind of the different flavors. We had this flavor. Now it's time to come back.
Yeah. You're forgetting the biggest. You also love to wear your underwear outside.
On the outside, yeah.
Just let's be clear. I don't want to miss that. That's important.
I want some red trunks on this.
You need to be validated, and it's here for you.
So the second movie they went with here following Superman to announce not right. So if Superman's the heavy hitter, to Eric's point, launched the DCEU, is now looking to launch the DCU. The Authority is not a household name that everyone's ears are gonna perk up and go, oh, finally the Authority's hitting the big screen. Justin, the history here of Wildstorm and the Authority, and this just being kind of a different title.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to you because I think if he was like the most artistic guy, maybe that's not fair. From an artistic choice, does this feel like a bold move, or is it something that's logical within the mix of some of the bigger names to drop down to a lower tier as well?
Yeah, I can see, like, based on, it's definitely like a contrast to who Superman is. Like if you've ever read the Authority stuff, I've read a little bit of it. I'm not like a huge fan of the Authority. There was a book that came out, I think last year, where it was Superman and the Authority, where he went into space with them or whatever. Yeah, this is the one I'm least excited about because I don't have like a big emotional attachment to the Authority. I don't have an emotional attachment to a lot of these things, but it's not like DC proper for me yet. I know it's been acquired, but it hasn't really felt like it's doesn't feel like it's legitimate yet for me. It's probably going to be good. James Gunn's good at taking weird things, right? I mean, that's what a lot of this stuff on this list is, and making them feel like authentic. Like Guardians, no one knew about Guardians, right? Now my mom knows about Groot and Rocket Raccoon, right? Like she made that happen. Like James Gunn helped make that happen, right? And also the popularity of Marvel. So, and he said it's a passion project, so maybe he has a good angle. I'm kind of open-handed with it, but I'm also, it's definitely a bold move. I'm imagining there's an end credit scene or something, and there's probably some ties. Sorry, I'm going to spoil a little bit, like to the Amanda Waller stuff, I imagine.
I think that could be
there's probably some seeds there, since that's going to predate the Superman movie coming out. So it's definitely a choice. It's the one I'm kind of like, we'll see. But
I'm kind of like that, to be honest. Wildstorm, my experience with Wildstorm was when it was over at Image, right? And then moved over, and it was being published by DC, but wasn't part of sort of the in DC proper continuity until the New 52. And I just, even when Grifter shows up and like backup stories to Batman issues and stuff, I'm just like, wow, this feels kind of goofy to me. But I don't know if that's just because I'm like an old fuddy duddy. Yeah. Have you read much of this, The Authority, in the past?
No, I just have a passing knowledge of it. And this is like the project I have like the least give a crap about. Like, it's like, oh, wow. Okay. I mean, Gunn described it as a passion project even. So he's really like, he really wants it on the slate, so much so that it seems to be tentatively the second thing out of the gate right after Superman.
Yeah.
Most likely. So like, I guess, so I'm there's a reason they want to do it, and it leads into the bigger tapestry of the story they're telling. But my initial reaction was like, oh, do I have to watch this to understand? Because it's connected. Now, do I have to watch it? I don't really care. It's not really what I'm interested in. So, but I guess I'll wait and see if it interests me. I guess that's to bury the lead for some of Justin's thoughts. Like, I've gone from feeling like, boy, I have to watch every single DC movie to support it all, to, oh, now I have this giant slate. I guess I'll just watch the things that actually interest me. And I don't know if that's exactly what they want people to say when they're trying to connect everything, but that's kind of how I'm feeling right now. I'm like, maybe I'll just watch what looks good to me.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I haven't gotten there with Marvel properties, by the way, yet. I still see everything Marvel. There's some
Same
TV
here,
show,
but I'm so close.
I am close. And I think the more stuff they launch to streaming, the more I'm like, I can wait. I haven't finished a couple of the series yet that just didn't quite work for me. Who knows what happens through the marketing and everything else. But for those listeners, if you aren't familiar, The Authority was created by Warren Ellis and Brian Hitch. And Eric, I was going to ask you about this. The description, right, is sort of like, they talk about how the Authority is not necessarily heroes fighting villains. These are very morally questionable people that can still get things done and take things into their own hand, which I was going to ask you, does that sound a little bit like James Gunn's previous passion project in the Suicide Squad? And do you think it's too close to home for that? Or, I mean, could this be just kind of, we've seen him do this before, or what are your thoughts around that one?
Yeah, I mean, that I did kind of, when I first read the description of who they were too, that's what I said. I'm like, well, he definitely has it. He's staying in his lane with this one because it's something he's very, very,
he's got that club really, in his bag.
Yeah, he knows how to execute with. So in that regard, I'm excited to see what he does with it because I love the Suicide Squad. I thought it was one of the better movies that came out, especially during the pandemic and everything. So I really enjoyed that film. So I'm hoping, my hope is that what you said is correct, that this is something he knows how to do. He's going to nail it, and it's going to be an exciting movie for everyone. It seems that these characters seem to be a little bit more supernatural. So maybe you'll lean into that a little bit more than we got from
That's a really good
Suicide
point.
Squad.
That's a really good point. If you look at the Authority, it's sort of like a darker Justice League on its own. It's a kind of Justice League with some twisted elements. So that could be a differentiator.
Who could direct that?
Wow. James Gunn isn't writing it. He didn't say he wasn't writing it. He declined to say who was writing.
I know Haas was.
Yeah. Right, do you want to bring Zack Snyder in for this bad boy? Is that what you're saying?
I was like, that's
the one thing that I would think that would make sense for him.
I know. Like,
choice.
Can you imagine the internet? Like, can you imagine
it's the
Twitter?
only choice?
It's really
the
just
only choice.
Oh, it's the blueprint. Right?
I don't have the stomach for that.
I don't have it either.
Yeah,
it's sweet.
But it would have been an amazing idea.
8 pounds 6 ounce baby Jesus. Please don't let it happen. Right, okay.
If he never did the other movies,
if he never did, like if it was like, that 300 guy hasn't done.
Remember Watchmen?
No, I would have said if he only did Watchmen, then it would have been like, oh shoot,
he should come back.
Exactly.
Just waiting for Nolan to come back.
That's right.
What could have been. But will never be. All right. So moving on back to, let's say, more familiar territory and probably the most appropriate for a Batman on Film podcast to discuss. It's entitled The Brave and the Bold. As Justin said about Superman Legacy, the title, I don't love it, but it is closely related to Batman. Normally it's Batman and somebody else, Aquaman, Plastic Man, whoever, you name it, has shown up.
The Authority.
The cartoon, obviously. This is really what sounds to be a new take and approach to Batman and Robin, right? Mm-hmm. And we found out right away, we know the Robin in question is Damian Wayne.
Yeah.
Justin. What was your reaction to knowing we're getting Damian here for the DCU Batman to be partnered up with?
Yeah, I was like, this was the thing that I was like, out the gate. I didn't think we would get a Batman announcement like in chapter 1, right? So it actually made me excited because I think you can have two different things going on. I don't think he has to wait for Matt Reeves to finish up what he's doing. People ain't going to get confused. And then when you throw Robin in there, it definitely separates it from anything else. The thing that made me surprised, I was like, well, if Damian's there, that means we've already had Dick Grayson, Jason, and Tim. Like those other guys are floating around, flapping their bird wings. I don't think they would start a universe like this and not have Dick Grayson, So I think and he even said like, hey, the Bat family hasn't been in films for a long time. This gives me an opportunity to pepper them in there as well. So I think he was kind of sharing like this is more of a Bat family type of thing, but I think it's going to focus on the tension between Bruce Wayne and Damian. And I saw a few other people, sometimes with these books, you get inspired by a book and you follow it letter of the law. And then sometimes it's like spirit of the law. Like, we love the idea, the dynamic of Batman and his son going at odds, right? But some guy's like, Dick Grayson's going to be the Batman of this thing. I was like, no. I'm reading. I'm like, no.
Hold up.
He said it's a father-son dynamic. Damian is Bruce's son. And so, but they showed the cover of, Batman, the Batman and Robin book. The Grant Morrison did. Yeah. And maybe, and these people who put these shots out, they don't know anything. They had the angry New 52 Superman Unchained cover too. I'm like, that's opposite of Superman All-Star Superman.
Yeah.
But they don't care. They're just grabbing an image, Getty image Superman, Well,
back to Superman real quick. Yeah. I mean, just when we talk about All-Star, that was the image that Gunn and Safran presented. And it was when DC Studios account tweeted out that would be their first project. It was the image they used as well.
Yeah. No, I was talking about the Variety article. It had like
Variety.
angry Superman
flexing.
He was
collared.
like, I've got a collar.
Collared in the whole
segmented armor. But I'm really excited. I feel, I'm excited about the idea. I like the Bat family, and so I want to see. I don't want to see like 20 of them, but it would be cool to see. Hey, there's Nightwing, and
Well, that brings me to my next question. I wanted to kick this over to Haas because I know Haas's Batman proclivities. Some of your favorite stories.
Right. Haas is the boss.
He's got the big. I know what you're into, right? You like the big overarching story. Some of your favorites: Nightfall, Saga, No Man's Land.
I love Bat Family.
You get the extended Bat Family.
I love the Bat Family. Yeah.
What was your response to hearing this?
I mean, it sounds like a cool place to put Batman that skips all the bull crap, and I don't mean like in the bad way. It's just like it's. For all this Batman stuff, it's like, oh, you got to start Batman at the ground level. You got to build him up. You got to wait 10 years for movies before you can maybe introduce Robin and have it be believable. But the good thing is now we can have our cake and eat it too with, Matt Reeves movies doing the ground level early stuff. And now we can have an established Batman. I mean, it's interesting because we're going to have a younger Superman and an older Batman again, like in the same universe, but I think the approach will be so different from what's come before that it won't be a huge deal. And so I think it'll be kind of a cool, like will be like Batman in his super prime Batman with all this history, but maybe not so jaded, and is going to have to shift how he operates to facilitate new little bastard Robin, apparently. I expect this project to be one that changes maybe the most from its initial description. I feel like it's not that far along. I don't know. I can't believe like they would have a movie that has Batman in it and not have Batman in the title. But then again, the Batman is going to be in the Flash movie that's called The Flash, but I don't know. So it'll be like
he's essentially the co-lead, right?
Exactly. So it'll be the same kind of thing. But yeah, it's exciting. But it's not. It didn't jump out at me. It'd been like, oh, I love this concept. It's so great. But because right now it just feels like, hey, we're gonna take like some cool stuff that's been in the comics and like put it in a movie. I need more than that to really be like, ooh, yes. Yeah. But I love the possibility of being able to know that we're gonna be thrown into this world, and it'll be a cool testing ground if they can be like, hey, we're gonna do Batman and Damian, and we'll sprinkle in a Batgirl and a Nightwing, and whichever characters of those are the most popular, they'll be able to spin those off and get solo movies maybe based off of like how people react.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned that this is pure speculation, right? Like open question. You guys feel free to let your brains run wild here. But in one of the Q&As that Peter and James did, they talked about how their plans for the DCU are more aligned with the Star Wars universe than the MCU. MCU has been, with a couple exceptions, I think Black Widow comes to mind, pretty linear in its progression, right? It's kind of started at a starting point and then just continued on in a more chronological fashion. They said this is not going to do this. Their universe, they have movies planned to take place at different time periods. Right. You mentioned, it sounds like we're getting an established Batman. He's probably been Batmaning for 10 years or so, super prime. Yeah. Do you guys think this could take place at a different time frame than the Superman Legacy or any of the other projects?
I think it definitely could. Yeah. Like by the time you see Superman, like the next entry of the Superman after Legacy, maybe he'll catch up age-wise to like whenever he really comes back into a sequel or something. I don't know. Like they're really planning it out. So
someone is going to tweet after this comes out. They're going to say, rumor Ryan Haas from Batman on Film says Cavill could come back to play an older Superman after the timeline catches up.
Well, Superman doesn't age much, so that whoever.
That's true. I sure hope not. That's been the one thing, like, and we can talk about this a little bit in here. I have a question later, because there was a lot of Kingdom Come teases leading up to this announcement, whether it was just building plans or actually Kingdom Come was going to be a reference point. That's the only thing that's ever bugged me about Kingdom Come is like Superman shouldn't have gray hair yet. Like he should have zero signs of age whatsoever. Yeah, I know.
Stressed out.
He said Superman. Not
one
Aquaman,
interesting quote, I think was maybe a Safran quote in one of these Q&As said something like, it's very planned out, but by the time the first couple projects come out, it'll be very clear like what the overarching story is building up to. So that was pretty intriguing to me. Well, like it seems like if you're a comics fan, you'll know what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to kind of come back to it at the end of the movies, because what we didn't have announced was anything that was seemingly related to Kingdom Come, and a lot of people were kind of anticipating that.
Yeah. I still think that was just him putting a picture out. Hey, planning, because there was a bunch of guys planning around
standing around a table.
Yeah,
I think wild speculation moment, right? We could be setting up the dynamic between the first two properties they mentioned, Superman and this, kindness and, like morality, and then the Authority. What if the Authority takes the place of sort of the next gen, quote unquote, heroes, Magog and whoever you have?
Yeah.
And they set a Kingdom Come up thing kind of deal up that way. I mean, who knows? Maybe that's kind of where my head went. The contrast there. Eric, let's talk a little more Batman before we move on. Peter likes to give you a hard time about one time you writing an opinion piece that said, questioning if the world was ready for another Batman.
Yes.
And Robert Pattinson. Do you think the world's ready for yet another Batman while we still have Robert Pattinson going?
You mean two at the same time?
Two at the same time. What would you do if you had $1 million? Two Batmans at the same time.
I mean, I think now, I think this one, since it's going to be different, and it's kind of a different take that we've ever seen before, I think there's more intrigue revolving around this specific story that they're going to tell than the ones we've gotten previously. So, and I think the Batman proved that those people who were saying that stuff were full of crap, because everyone wanted to see it anyway. So I think that we're at a place now where, again, and I mean, Justin had even said we live in a post-Batman world at one time.
We do.
So, right. So now we're seeing that that's not true, man. Like every time Batman, the name is on something, people go to it. It doesn't matter what it is. And he's, like we said, he's their number one IP. He's, whether it's movies, shows, merchandise, people flock to him. So I think people are not only ready, they're probably waiting now.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to wait. I mean, this movie wouldn't come out until 2026 or 7, probably.
Yeah, no.
Which will be close enough to Pattinson jumping out. They do need to, I just feel like that title, The Brave and the Bold, just sounds like a soap opera. If you're anybody else, they need
I know
to
the title's a little like even the animated series. It was Batman, The Brave and the Bold.
It's a little inside baseball, right? Like,
I the closer we get to marketing, can you imagine? Do you want to see Brave and the Bold? I wanted to see the Batman film because it's not playing.
Right. You know what I mean? Look what they even did with
Harley Quinn and
that's what I was just going. By the time week 2 rolled around,
whatever that. Yeah,
the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn.
Yeah, that was dumb.
Do you think we're going to get blue and gray?
You beat me to it, Eric. My next question: open up to everybody. If you were to predict the costume that this Batman would wear, what would your prediction be? You don't have to tell me vial belt versus pouch belt, but
Brave and the Bold equals Jim Aparo, like blue and gray Batman.
Where is it at?
Yeah.
Which would be very interesting to finally see on the big screen.
I have the answer.
Excuse me, after 66 or after the Batman movie. One.
Ooh,
sorry. I know it's not an island.
Justin has pulled out
that one.
Kenner. What series is that?
Dark Knight Collection.
Dark Knight Collection. This is
action figure. Iron Winch Batman.
Yeah.
But who cares? It's basically you guys can't see it at home, but
I always love that.
It's a basically Michael Keaton Batman suit, but with the blue and gray color.
Always love that.
A deep navy.
It's a deep navy. Yeah. So I think if even a darker, if they were going to do blue and gray, which I prefer black and gray, but if they were going to do it, I think they could pull it off if they go with a darker gray, darker than the gray here, and like a more of a deep navy. I think it could work. But if it's like 1970s, like Jose Luis Garcia Lopez turnaround model sheets, not going to work.
It's still some of my favorite, like
beautiful
stock art house art ever. But live action would be tough. Eric, what do you think? Which one? You posed the question.
Oh no, I think we're gonna get blue and gray, a version of that specific color pattern, and I think it's because Gunn has kind of been that he's the guy who would do something like that just to be different, change it up. James Gunn.
What's really cool, what's really interesting, like even if Batman is going to be a few years after, Superman movie and all that, like they're going to have to kind of design some of these characters ahead of time, because like if you're going to use blue on Batman, it needs to look different, but also look good next to the blue of Superman. Like they're going to have to think about that kind of stuff. I mean, of course they can do kind of what Marvel did and just change the outfits or whatever as the movies go on, but that is something that they should not ignore.
Yep. I agree. And for me, I would say if I were to bet, given that I don't think we're going to get some like huge suit redesign in the Batman movies. I might be wrong, but I think if anything, it'll be iterative and probably not stray too far from what we've gotten. It would be a really nice way to differentiate the properties or iterations of the properties, to have something a little bit more comic booky. If it's like a midnight blue, like, damn near black, like you're picking out church clothes in the morning as a kid and you're sleepy and the lights aren't on, you can't quite tell if it's navy or black. That's the blue I'd be down for. Right? All right. So moving off of Batman.
Sorry. Remember that movie Father of the Bride? And they're like, hey, nice blue suit. And he's like, it's black.
It's great. Steve Martin. We should get Steve Martin in one of these movies. That'd be awesome.
Oh gosh, he should play Egghead or something.
He should play Alfred.
Oh my gosh, he'd be great as Alfred.
He can non-British Alfred.
He can pull off accents. You get the little.
You're right. Eric's right.
Gold. Like
you're right. He can do the voice of Skeets.
I've seen him with a pencil mustache. It's incredible. All right, so back into the world of Superman. The next movie they talked about was Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. And specifically, they've told us this is based on Tom King's comic run of the same title. That was 2021, just wrapped up last year. Features Superman's cousin, Kara Zor-El. And this is a very different type of Supergirl. So have any of you guys read this? I know Peter wasn't able to join us tonight. Peter had read this storyline and has had positive things to say about it. I'll just get this out of the way. Has anyone else read that one?
I read the first 2 issues and that was it.
I have not read it either.
Ben, you're a huge Tom King fan, though. But
I know I love Tom King. I think the art just didn't grab me. But my buddy Matt Ritchie read it. He said, "Dude, this is so good." And so everyone I know who talk, I have a buddy Tyler. He read it and he's all, "Dude, that book was incredible." He just didn't. He's all Supergirl, but our friend told him to read it, and he's like, "Dude, that was amazing." Yeah. So now I'm like, I love Tom King, but I'm missing the boat on this one, I guess.
Well, I'm planning on reading the book now for sure, right? Like it seems like
probably on DC Ultra, Universe Ultra,
whatever names,
or
tied to it.
Hoopla,
or that, yes.
Yeah, Lowry, you're here with us in spirit. Yeah, Eric, pull it up. Let us know. I'll read the quick description. They talk about this being a movie where we get to see the difference between Superman, who was sent to Earth and raised by loving parents from the time that he's an infant. The loving parents thing makes me feel like hopefully we get a different Pa Kent than we did the last time around, versus Supergirl, who was raised, not that he wasn't loving. Somebody's going to hit me up and say Pa Kent loved him so much he wanted to let those kids drown, but whatever. Who was raised on a rock.
Those kids were jerks, to be honest.
And one of them look at him. Clark was like pushing him into the fence.
Yeah,
but this
suck on one.
This Supergirl was raised on a rock chip off of Krypton and watched everyone around her die and be killed in terrible ways for the first 14 years of her life. So this is a much more hardcore Supergirl.
So she's like the Charlie Brown of like the Superman universe. She got a rock.
She got a rock. And every time she tries to kick the football, it gets whipped away from her, right?
It is on Hoopla.
It is on Hoopla. Thank you very much, Eric. I need to read this. I don't have too much to discuss about this besides the fact that we haven't got a Supergirl movie since 1984?
I believe so.
And that one wasn't a big hit. The Supergirl.
What's goofy is that we are getting a brand new Supergirl this year, in the Flash. So it's like they're taking their time to establish a brand new Supergirl that has some sort of ties to the Cavill one. So is it this Supergirl? Is it a different one? The Flash is supposed to reset everything, but also right after they reset everything, they've got Supergirl. So what are they doing?
And Gunn had said during some of these Q&A events is he doesn't see anything that would preclude actors from who had been in previous iterations of these characters and movies to continue on in their role. That was a big question, right?
Except Cavill
and Affleck. He was also very clear. There's no Cavill.
And Jared Leto.
Right. He didn't say it, but from your lips to God's ears,
Yeah.
But what do you think, guys? Is this going to be Sasha Calle? Do you think this is going to be a different and new Kara? And if that's the case, what's the backlash stitch look like in that? Where, if you had to guess now, is this Supergirl from the Flash, or is this all new, all different Supergirl?
If the Flash does $1 billion and people are like, yo, Supergirl is the sensational find of 2023, then she's in the movie. There's a lot of wait and see, I think, on this stuff. You know, it's the flat, like James Gunn was even saying, like, oh, we've inherited gold with all these films, right?
Yeah.
But if these films don't, put money in the bucket, then, Blue Beetle, that was fun, but it didn't work. We're out. If Shazam 2 doesn't hit, we're out. That's the way I look at it. Same thing with the Flash. You can say all day, Flash is $1 billion flick, best superhero movie of all time, yada, yada, yada. If it doesn't hit and connect and people aren't excited about those characters, that's why we're not seeing Cavill, and that's why we're not seeing Affleck. And I don't want to keep hitting that stick, but there's a reason why this is more of a soft reboot than a hard reboot, because some of the stuff worked. We just don't know if Kaye works. If she works, then she's probably going to get into this next thing.
A lot of people seem to have made up their minds already without seeing, essentially a single frame of her in the role, that she's the greatest thing ever to happen to Supergirl and she deserves better and all this stuff, right? How much do you think, Eric, these guys, as they're mapping this out, how much time do you think they put towards the social media reactions and trying to quell the storm that's been in the DC universe for the last, how long? 10, 11 years at this point. Is that a factor that you think might play into their plans for this Supergirl movie, or is that just out of sight for them?
Gunn has said that he wants to try and do right by the fans. So if that's what he means, then I assume that they do care what people think to some respect. But he's also said that he doesn't want to skew the artist, whoever it is writing, directing, from telling their story. So he's kind of right now speaking out of both sides of his mouth, just trying to keep everything level. I think speaking of Supergirl and you talking about, is it going to be Sasha Calle? I'm with Justin in that if it does well, I think she'll probably stay. You put a lot of time and you invest a lot of time into her development of this character, and she's, she becomes popular. Makes sense for them to kind of stick with her to tell this story as the woman of tomorrow, whatever they're calling it. So I do believe the fans and the social media reaction does play with their decisions. I just don't think it's driving them. Yeah, it shouldn't be. We don't want Twitter writing these movies. Enough comic book writers write for Twitter. We don't need Twitter writing the movies anymore. I'm whatever they want to do, right? Just put a good movie in front of me. I'm not going to be a stickler on these things. Okay, let's move on to the last movie. For me, this was the biggest surprise, quite honestly, of the movies, right? Well, I shouldn't say that. The Authority was pretty out of left field. I did not think they'd announce a Swamp Thing movie like straight out the gates. So of things I would have thought potentially options, Authority was never going to be something I thought of. Right. Of the things I could conceivably expect to hear, Swamp Thing would have been fairly low on the list. But indeed, seems that we are getting a Swamp Thing movie. I know there are a lot of big Swamp Thing fans. I've certainly read a fair share of Swamp Thing. I've never done the deep dive, cover all the issues in the Ring of Honor runs.
Where's a podcast for that?
There is. I was going to say BOF contributor, right? Rob Reinicke. He's probably very excited about this news. I saw some tweets. He was.
He actually was.
He was. I saw some tweets from him today. So excited for Rob. But this in particular is going to investigate the dark origins of Swamp Thing. Origin of Swamp Thing, of course, has had a couple different takes, two or three major redos. This feels like, as much as the Authority, when we read the description there, something that seemed to click and make sense for Gunn. When I sat down and thought about it, Haas, is there another character where, like, after you kind of take a breath to think about, makes more sense for James Gunn to have his fingerprints on?
Perfect sense. I mean, it's very James Gunny, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Across his filmography, right?
Oh, yeah.
So not just what he's been doing recently, but like,
early movies,
horror origins.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes
wild.
I don't know. Like I think of like his like trauma stuff, like kind of in the vein of like oh gosh, what was the name of the guy? Toxic Avenger, like all that. Not that he did that, but that was came out of trauma, and James Gunn was a trauma guy. But I think this fits the weirdness of it, and I think and I trust that James Gunn knows the spirit of how these characters should be. You know, I think he knows where his strengths are too, and if he's going to help develop again all these types of things, I'm sure he's got his green thumb on all these things.
Wow.
I don't know if it's going to be schlocky. It sounds like it's going to be more horror tinged, kind of like how if you ever seen the original movie from like 82, that was it was as horror as it could be, but I mean, it kind of served two things. It served a little bit of I think comic fan base, because it wasn't hard horror, but it definitely was like horror sci-fi, right? But it wasn't like a DC film from the people who made Superman. It wasn't anything like that, but it was like, based on magazines by DC Comics, right?
Magazines always back then. It was,
but this one, they're going to want you to know that this is part of the big connected thing.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's what it said. It was like, hey, this is going to be a hard horror film, but it's going to have definitely Swamp Thing's going to interact with other heroes. But like, I think it's going to be the one that's like, oh, I don't know if I can take the kids to this one. I think this and The Authority are going to be the ones that it's like, oh, that's maybe it's PG-13.
Hard PG-13. Yeah.
It's not going to be like Swamp Thing, the sequel to Swamp Thing from 89, which was a big ham. That was goofy. I don't know if you ever saw that. It was goofy, but.
Give me Guillermo del Toro or Sam Raimi or, give me one of those guys.
Guillermo, he's been saying this for years, though. Justice League Dark.
Justice League Dark. The guy hasn't met a property that he's not willing to attach his name to and then never make the movie. Right? Sign me up for anything. I'll never end up doing it. However, Guillermo has been on Twitter as recently as yesterday.
Oh shoot,
tweeting about Swamp Thing. In fact, he just purchased.
There was one tweet I read from a journalist that said something about Gunn has an open offer to a director that takes a notorious amount of time to do things for whatever project he wants.
They said specifically related to Swamp Thing, he has an offer. They have been talking to someone. They feel like they're close to getting the guy they want for this. And literally yesterday, somebody just tweeted about how Guillermo del Toro just purchased some original Swamp Thing artwork from him. And then he replied and he said like, yes, I did, or I sure did, or that was me. So could be coincidence.
He was trying, he was deep in trying to get Justice League Dark made years ago.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Like he would be, and that would be like the prestige director that would that would get more people in seats that normally wouldn't see just a weird horror but if he's doing it, I'll see it, So
I think of this because my brain, I'm trying to actually work today and my brain's running thinking about silly book movies. I thought like in the same way that they went out and got Marlon Brando to lend an air of credibility to Superman the movie, getting an actor of this caliber. There it is. Justin's got the tweet up.
Yeah.
Some Guillermo del Toro was purchasing Swamp Thing artwork very recently. In the same way, a director of his caliber can add that same air of credibility to this universe. It's kind of a match made in heaven. Even if he says, yes, I'm signed on to do this, it's like a 95% likelihood he won't actually do it, but it'll make the press.
He'll end up being an executive producer.
Dude, I would love Peter Jackson to do a DC movie.
Peter Jackson would be absolutely awesome. I would love. I thought Peter Jackson for Lord of the Rings. He's done that for.
He should do it again.
Yeah, I agree that he should. There's plenty of material out there. Trust me, I'm just hammering away at it right now. I'm like, when will it end? I thought it was just 3 books, and then the kids' book that came before it. But I thought he'd be great at a Green Lantern movie. So I would love to see him do whatever. Speaking of Green Lantern, I think we found out that Green Lantern's going to be a television show.
Yeah.
It was going to be a television show before.
Yeah.
But now it's got some different runners attached. So no longer moving forward is the Greg Berlanti project. I would say in my assessment, and I'll kind of, when we start to wrap things up, I'll kind of ask you your overall thoughts. But for me, the one thing where I was like, ooh, I don't know that I like that approach. The Green Lantern project kind of stood out to me because I always thought Green Lantern, like I'm doing a big reread of Jeff Johns, and it's all out in space. Very little. Secret Origins has a lot of Earth stuff, but everything else is big and out there in space, right? It's space.
You want to see weird space stuff. You want the only familiar thing to be the humanoid Green Lanterns.
Exactly. But Safran says specifically that their vision is much more true detective, terrestrial-based investigation story featuring Hal and John Stewart. So I won't say that takes the air out of it for me, but it's just not kind of when I was anticipating. We've seen terrestrial-based Green Lantern pretty recently. Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern spent a lot of time on Earth. I just did a rewatch of that not too long ago with our pals Paul and Chris over from the Comic Binge. I still like it. It's not good, but I enjoy it. It's going to be a TV show with two of the most famous Green Lanterns. Like, Eric, when you saw this, did you think like, oh no, they really should have put other Guy Gardner, whoever Lantern in this,
I just want to say, from covering this show from Straight Outta Gotham from the beginning, with all the directors and actor changes and character changes, when I read this, I was like, oh, here we go again. Now we have now it's two other guys. It's back to Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. So I mean, I'm open to whatever they want to do with this show. I was kind of surprised too that they're sticking strictly on Earth. I was like, that's not really what I'm used to or what I want to see. But I'm just happy this damn thing's being made, to be honest. I mean, this has been talked about for so long, and there's so many people out there who want to see this in some form or fashion. So whatever they want to do, I'm good with. I just want to see it come up on the screen the day it's supposed to premiere. That's where I'm at.
Get to the finish line, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Let's cross that. Let's get there, cross the bridge, get to the other side, and show this show.
Haas, I know it was important for me when I read this to like not have even more of like, it's not what I would have wanted to have Hal Jordan called out specifically. In your opinion, do you have to start with Hal in a Green Lantern property? There's a lot of lanterns. Jon Stewart's very, very famous, particularly for the kids who came of age during Justice League Unlimited.
Right.
Do you think you have to start with Hal?
The beauty of Green Lantern is that like Green Lantern, we have a legacy now that we have lots of different humanoid Green Lanterns. I mean, even more so than the Flash, there's a lot of people that have taken the Flash mantle, but Green Lantern, having different people being Green Lantern is literally built into the lore. Yeah. Hal Jordan is my favorite Green Lantern, so I'm not complaining that we're going to get him out of the gate, and him and Jon Stewart is a really good, interesting pair. So I think that'll be a really good philosophical place for people to be. At its core, I mean, especially as a TV true detective show, like you're going to be like, think of the general audience. It's going to be like, it's like Lethal Weapon, but superheroes. That's going to be a cool, like that's an easy sell for people. And so, Green Lantern, let's be honest, it needs all the help it can get to get like it back into the mainstream. Like Green Lantern is like the new Aquaman, basically. And so now Aquaman's cool because of Jason Momoa and $1 billion movies. And so now like Green Lantern needs to kind of get a leg up. So like, that's cool. I'm surprised that we're getting Hal in it, to be honest. Like I thought for sure they would just skip over Hal because the Ryan Reynolds kind of thing failed, and we just get Jon Stewart from now on or whatever. But so that's cool that I wish the show would be more in space, but that doesn't rule it out in the future. If the show's really popular, I'm sure that we'll get more Green Lantern stuff popping up in future film stuff as the slate continues to evolve and things like that. So it's going to be really interesting too, is like the shows, like there's a lot of these shows that have been announced, like, are they just, and they're part of the slate. So if the shows are popular, are we going to have like multiple seasons of these shows and they just keep adding more shows, or they're going to be like more event series, one and done things, kind of like the Disney Plus Marvel shows too. So I'm curious how the TV shows are going to, because movies are built in to be like boom, boom, boom. But like the shows are like multiple seasons. They're these weird ongoing things. So are they going to be event series or multiple seasons or what? Yeah.
Justin, this will rile up a small segment of salty and angry weirdos on the interwebs.
Probably.
But there's a man's name that hasn't been mentioned in the future of the DCU specifically. We know he's producing some projects that are currently happening, whether it's Lois and Clark and some previous ones. His name was all over the previous Green Lantern movie. I think he's a masterclass storyteller. He's one of my favorite writers in the history of comic books. He's incredibly talented and knows the DC universe and the spirit of the characters he works on better than almost any other writer in the last 20 years. Would you want to see Geoff Johns attached to this project?
Yeah, sure. He's like, I one of the things that I like is that they have Tom King as was one of the architects of this stuff. Like they kind of mentioned like who's doing this, and I'm like, yo, I love Tom King, like I love Geoff Johns. I'm a huge fan. I think Tom King brings good takes on characters. Like he looks at them in a different way, and I think Geoff Johns loves the DC universe. So if he's involved, cool. If he's not involved, I'm cool too. I think Geoff Johns made Green Lantern great.
We would not be talking about Green Lantern in the way we would not have the anticipation for Green Lantern projects if it was not for Geoff Johns.
Yeah, here's the thing. Like that movie happened because Green Lantern was the next biggest comic book going on at DC. Like they had Superman, they had Batman. Like what's next? Gotta do Green Lantern, right? And unfortunately, they didn't really let. I mean, the legend is they didn't really take his suggestions, and they just did what they did. But I think it's telling. Here's what it's telling to me. They're calling this show Lanterns. It's like Arrow. Mm-hmm. They're not calling it Green Arrow. They're calling it Lanterns because I think they're still gun shy. Like if we call this Green Lanterns, no one's going to watch. No one knows who Hal Jordan is, right?
But not enough people.
Not enough people for it to go Hal Jordan, son of a gun. But a lot of kids, man, who are like 20, 30 years old, grew up on Justice League Unlimited, and they know John Stewart. Like my kid, John Stewart's his Green Lantern. He's the one he knows, and so.
Mine too.
Yeah, I think that's smart. But also James Gunn's like old school comic book fan. He's probably like, yo, I love all the Lanterns. And I know the two number one guys are Hal and John. So we're going to put them together, make a space cop, buddy cop thing. And like you were saying, Ryan, sorry, I wanted to hit that thought is they're probably going to show space stuff. Even if they're on Earth, he says there's other Lanterns. I'm sure we're going to get some like control desk stuff, with who's the freaking guy who's like the sergeant? He's always ordering.
Kilowog?
No, not Kilowog. There's
Tomar Ray.
Not Tomar Ray. Salick.
Sure. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So like, I'm sure he's going to be like, "Where's John and Hal? They're on Earth. 2814 is bigger than Earth. Like maybe they're going to get some of that stuff off screen or whatever. But
if it's Earth based, like hell, throw Green Arrow into an episode too. I want to see Green Arrow.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Yeah, that's smart. I mean, who knows? But anyways,
heroin bust.
Yeah, if Geoff Johns is involved, cool. I just don't care about that fan base anymore. So I don't even care, man. Like if they get mad,
get angry.
Yeah, get angry, dude. But then and
then go back and read his run.
Then go back. I don't know.
I'm 2/3 of the way through it, and it is pure magic. It's even better than I remembered it. It is so damn good. Highest possible recommendation. I'm doing that, and you guys know I'm also doing Burns 80s Man of Steel run, and it's just like this is as good as it gets for like two of my favorite characters. This is like prime stuff here.
The best runs of those characters.
Yep, beautiful things. All right,
Garret has the runs, man. That's your new segment. Garret has the runs. What are you reading right now? Well,
what run am I on? It's putting in a lot of hard work today. All right, a lot of hard work. But again, I think Gunn's kind of primed and ready for this. This is a property that, general audience is not going to be familiar with for a TV show. This is an animated TV show. Creature Commandos. Eric, did you have any concept of what Creature Commandos was when you first heard this mentioned today or read that this was being talked about?
None, not at all.
I didn't either. I was like, Creature Commandos, is this an original? And then I was like, no, I started, it was like first launched in 1980. The original premises was Frankenstein and a werewolf and a vampire. and a Gorgon to fight the Nazis in World War II. I was like, whoa, could be interesting. But then they're like, yeah, but this also doesn't seem like it's going to be that. What did get me hyped? Weasel.
Yes,
Weasel is it. Yeah,
from the Suicide Squad, who did not die.
Exactly.
Like, he's in here. And Rick Flag's father, Rick Flag Sr. Now, do you get what's his name and put the age makeup
Joel
on him?
Kinnaman?
No. I was going to say, what's his face from 1883? Original Thunderbolt Ross just had him.
But Harrison Ford in it.
No, not Harrison Ford.
Oh,
the guy from 1883.
Sam.
Sorry.
Sam Elliott.
Oh,
yeah, Sam Elliott.
Or Stephen Lang, right? Why not get him? The guy from
from Avatar.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. I just want Elliott in it.
Actually, facially, I like Eric's take. They kind of Sam Elliott's always sweet. They should have brought Sam Elliott into the MCU, but that's neither here nor there. What was interesting about this one, Gunn, kind of, we don't need to go into this because it's a title not a ton of people know, and it sounds like it might just be name only. But what I thought the most interesting point of this was, Gunn made a point to talk about they're looking for opportunities to tell stories that are gigantic without spending $50 million an episode. Yeah. And that the voice actors, will show up to play their live action counterparts later in the DCU. That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah.
Introduce them in animation. Now they pop in live action. All right.
That's real. That's actually real interesting. Because if they do another animated show and they book somebody, you're like, oh shoot,
precedence there.
Eric Holzmann is Aquaman.
Hey, well, there wasn't a Lobo announcement, so we don't know, right? In fact, they said very clearly Momoa is not going to play two different characters, and we'll see what happens after Aquaman 2.
Wink, wink.
Yeah, so maybe there might be an opening, there might not be. Eric, you keep your fins at the ready. An actor who is definitely continuing in the role from the previous DCEU to the DCU is going to show up in Waller. Eric, I know this is I think you told me, and you might have tweeted this too, this is the property that you are most excited for.
Yeah.
The news with this comes along with the fact that season 2 of Peacemaker has been put on hold, but Team Peacemaker is going to be appearing alongside the incomparable Viola Davis. Eric, is it just I don't mean just Viola Davis because she's a powerhouse. What makes this your most anticipated property out of this whole batch that was announced?
I like I like Amanda Waller's amoral character. Like, I like the character itself. Ruthless, she doesn't care. She just needs to get the job done. And Viola Davis was so fantastic in both Suicide Squad films. The first one, obviously she's in much more, and she's just nails the part. Like, she's perfect. So when they did the Suicide Squad, the first thing I said was, is Viola Davis coming back? And then she was. And then she shows up in Peacemaker. So then now I'm like, when I heard this, I was like, all right, at least this is one thing I'm super happy about that they're keeping from the previous iteration of stuff. They're keeping her in the role. And she's so good in everything. I'll watch anything she does. So for me, that's the big reason why. But the character itself, I love this character. Obviously, this version, she's been heavy and thin and heavy in all these different iterations.
You never know which one are you going to get. New 52, Sexy Waller, or the Waller.
So we have this tremendous actress who, and I'm surprised too that she's committing to a show. I mean, she did How to Get Away with Murder. I know she did on ABC for years. It was a TV show, and now she's committing to another show, a series. It's not a film. So I'm real excited for her and for the character to keep continuing what we saw from the Suicide Squad and the little bit we got in Peacemaker.
I saw some people, online and in a couple group chats I'm in, express some real disappointment, with the news that Peacemaker is quote unquote been put on hold. Justin, did you get does it feel to you like we're missing out on a season 2 of Peacemaker with this moving forward? Or does this kind of feel like another
say
entry
everything we needed to say
title?
with Peacemaker season
I mean,
1?
I don't feel that have a few thoughts. I haven't digested all of the news that's come out from all the different outlets.
There's a lot out there.
Yeah.
There's
So one of the things I read was like, this is, and I think this was from James Gunn's mouth, was this is between season 1 and 2 of Peacemaker. So it sounds like a Peacemaker season 2 will eventually come out. I definitely would like to see it, but at the same time, I don't feel like this is taking the place of it. You know, it's one of those things. It's like Mandalorian and Boba Fett.
Absolutely.
Right? Like it's that type of situation. I think this is the one announcement that got me. Soft reboot. That's what this is. This is the first one that says soft reboot, because Amanda Waller, I think she's the through line, and praise God that she didn't get taken out with Black Adam, because I feel like that movie was poison, right?
It was a touch of death.
Amanda,
as
Waller,
much as I liked it, man, it was the poison apple.
But I'm just saying, let's be honest. Like, you know, Waller and Hardcore made it out. That's about it, right? Everything else is
nepotism. This is an actual accomplished actress.
No,
it's
gosh,
just that she's James Gunn's wife. These losers are driving me nuts, man.
Who's been in other things?
I
don't even want to give those fools credence. But
it was a good day. It was a good day to put some things to bed and wake up to a brighter tomorrow.
Yeah. But I also think, like, to Eric's point, hey, man, it's good that we got her on this, but this show's not going to be like a 24 episode show. No, imagine it's like an 8 to 10 type of deal. So she's like, I'll make this happen. Plus, she likes playing Waller.
She's like, so darn good at it.
She said she loves it. I mean, from that trailer of the first Suicide Squad movie where she's cutting that steak, man, I'm like, dude, she's Amanda Waller. We've tried with Amanda Waller, and I feel like they haven't really nailed it, and they got her here. Because we had her in Green Lantern. There was a one on Arrow.
Angela Bassett. Yeah,
Angela Bassett. She was the first one.
Incredible actress. Just wasn't a good depiction.
What's her face? Oh shoot. What was her name? She was on Smallville, had one as well.
Oh,
remember
really?
Smallville? Remember Smallville?
Completely forgot Smallville
had Waller, and it was it was Cleopatra Jones. What's her face? Pam Grier.
That's right. Wow. Oh my gosh. 100%.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Pam Grier played Amanda Waller.
Yeah.
And she had like some Martian Manhunter interaction, didn't she?
Maybe she did.
Maybe. I haven't got. I'm in a Smallville rewatch, but I'm only on season 2. So.
Yeah.
But man, isn't just Amanda Waller is like the cockroach of the DCEU. You just can't kill her. Like she's in like
she's the wall,
2016 Suicide Squad and James Gunn Suicide Squad and Peacemaker and
The Rock,
Black Adam,
starring The Rock, you know?
Yeah, and Black
Michael
Adam,
Bay's The Rock.
She's she's
like M. Like I think whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the comparison is like she
totally.
We're just like, man, she's going to be on the screen and she's going to command it, and you're like, all right, I get she's the badass lady who's behind the scenes. You know, I don't know. I don't think she's running the JSA. That was kind of weird, but. She can probably have some influence on the Authority.
Well, how Peacemaker ended too, right? With her and her daughter Adebayo, obviously.
Yeah.
Right. And she outs everybody. So that's where it's supposed to pick up from.
Love it.
It'd be great to get Danielle Brooks back for this too, because I think she's really talented. I enjoyed her in Orange is the New Black. I thought she was great on Peacemaker. Get the daughter involved. Mothers and daughters will probably be a pretty big focal point of the next one, Paradise Lost. Talking about an island just all full of ladies. So they got to have, maybe they don't have that many kids rolling around that place. They didn't have any, they didn't procreate for a number of years. You got to carve somebody out of clay or sleep with a god. I don't know how it works. It depends what origin story you're going with. But Paradise Lost is being described as a Games of Thrones-ish story in a prequel set on Themyscira. The title recalls Paradise Island Lost. That was Jimenez and Perez, but Wonder Woman was heavily involved. It does not sound like Wonder Woman will be involved in this one. Haas, what are your thoughts on doing a Wonder Woman-esque, Wonder Woman adjacent project without Wonder Woman, and then, by means of that, without Gal Gadot, right? Like, that seems like an interesting choice.
Yeah, like this is another one of those projects where I'm just like, why? Like, why do we need Why do we need this? Who asked for this? For real? Like I'm sure it'll be good, but I'm just questioning yet again the necessity of it in this tapestry of gods and monster storytelling. And of course, like this show could definitely have both. You could have some cool mythological creatures and stuff in this thing. Game of Thrones with like more of the. I mean, I don't know. It could definitely play to that TV crowd, but I'm just questioning like why we need it instead of Wonder Woman. We've got like Batman and Superman represented in here, but instead of Wonder Woman, we have this. And Superman's had a Superman series without. Superman's had Krypton. Batman's had its Gotham, and we've seen like the to varying qualities, right? Yeah. Like, or the upcoming Gotham Knights. Like, what do we need? Wonder Woman origin without Wonder Woman show? I'm sure Wonder Woman's mom's going to be in it, right? Because they have
she's been around forever, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm sure like I'll watch it. I'm sure it'll be good, but I'm just like I'd rather see Wonder Woman. Like I didn't want to trade. I'm fine with the new Superman stuff, but I'm just like, I didn't want to trade, Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman 3 for this.
But is it?
I'm sure it'll be fine. I don't know. I mean, like it seems like now there has been the Q&A where James Gunn said that they have already talked to Gal Gadot and she is game to do stuff.
Yeah.
But it just seems like if she does do anything, it would be after this.
What if she bookends the show and she's like, let's look at the book of the Amazon.
I mean, that's I'm sure that could be if
she's
they're
like teaching that little girl she murdered people in front of. I want to be like you. And she's like, let me tell you the story of warriors.
Yeah.
I don't know, man, but I just think that the pedigree behind what this show could be, I get like the trepidation of like, oh, Krypton wasn't great, and Smallville, not Smallville, but Gotham and Gotham Knights. But this is different. This is different. When you say it's going to be like Game of Thrones, you're immediately throwing down with like one of the most highly rated TV shows in the last 10 years.
Game of Thrones, except the last couple seasons.
Exactly. Yeah, but you see what I'm saying? When you say something like that, you're like, oh, okay, there definitely could be some, intrigue and stuff going on there. And so I think if they have an angle, because I don't want to immediately go, it's a swap and also compare it to like it's badly fared cousins like Themyscira or Paradise Lake. I mean, it could be that show like, oh shoot, like I'm surprised by this show. Like, I just want to be open-minded on it, just from my own take. I didn't ask for any of these shows. Like they're giving.
I agree with both of you.
They're giving us what they think could be interesting, and who knows, there can be.
They're trying to hit all the quadrants. Like it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, but it can hint at like what did they say? Gods and what's the monsters?
Gods and monsters.
Gods and monsters like angle. Like there's probably something there that
could be guarding that mother box.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah. I need a prequel series that shows the elaborate plan they put in place to walk through like Egyptian runes and then get a special arrow, and then you got to go light the arrow and then hope somebody sees the arrow being on fire on camera. Like let's talk through the logistics there. That could dedicate a movie to how dumb of an idea that was. But I do think like my take when I read this is like, ooh, they don't know what to do with Wonder Woman yet.
Yeah.
They don't know where they want to go with Wonder Woman.
Fair.
And a prequel series is, I say easy out, but I don't mean
keeps it in the conversation without being so committed. Yes,
it keeps the awareness there. It keeps the brand there without knowing precisely where they want to proceed yet, right? So here's your Wonder Woman-esque property. You got your Superman thing. You got your Batman thing. Here's your Wonder Woman thing, but we don't know quite what we want to do with Wonder Woman going forward. So here's this for now. I think I guarantee they want it to be higher quality than just what I made it sound like, but it feels like a filler in some ways. I hope it's a really good filler.
We do know that Wonder Woman is in Shazam too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
so maybe they're
spoiler.
Sorry if I spoiled that for everyone, but she's
not an official thing, but it is
okay.
Poorly
kept. You guys can't see me. It's not official, but yes.
Wink, wink.
It makes sense. Gods.
It's as official as Henry Cavill being in Black Adam, Superman was. That's how official. But so maybe they're holding out. Like that's why they're not announcing anything with Wonder Woman, because there's something to do in Shazam that kicks things off or extends things or whatever the case may be. I don't know. Again, I'm just guessing.
Well, I saw something today.
Oh yeah, and then the whole thing is about like filming spots for the Flash, but they got deleted maybe or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, we don't know what's in, what's out. I think it was interesting in some of the
her
Q&As.
Funko Pop did not get deleted because it was all over
That's there.
Today. Yeah.
Well, it was interesting. I think, the more conversations, that are out there and the more questions that get asked and answered by Gunn and Safran, I think it really starts to paint a picture that a lot of things could happen, right? Like they left the door open, for Zachary Levi.
Yeah.
And like Gunn even kind of
like the jeans.
Sort of defended. There's like some controversy about him saying big pharma is not great for the world, and people got.
He made
it
one
that.
tweet.
I was like, I mean, is it like, I don't know. I didn't know that was too controversial. People made it a whole thing that it wasn't supposed to be. And he was like, no, I'm not going to change actions.
He's an anti-vaxxer.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. I don't know how they went for that, but
this is Twitter. Like, it's like
it was wild.
That's exactly
wild,
it. Yeah.
man.
James Gunn had to actually answer something to that. He was like, I can't
change plans every time an actress says something I personally don't agree with. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy, you're so reasonable.
Unless it's Jared Leto.
Yeah. And he's like, also, let's not let my old tweets, be held against me either.
Well, I mean, that's crazy. And that's what's crazy. He is such a James Gunn is a disruptor in this industry, in this position he's in, being a creative person that's also the head of the studio. Being able to and someone that has been canceled off of projects, who has been, had the fall from grace and got fired from Guardians 3, but has also been rehired and shot, and it's going to release Guardians 3
and a super excellent holiday special. I really enjoyed that. A property I am looking forward to. I think I'll enjoy. I think it's going to be special. The blurb on this.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
The blurb on this says, may not be familiar to casual fans. And I guess I have been under a false sense of security that people know who Booster Gold is.
Right.
I didn't know this. I didn't know he was, I know he's not like a marquee name, right? It's not Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Booster Gold, but I thought he was a little more well-known than Variety has to say.
I actually have to give Pete props, because this is one of the shows he said he thought would be made, or he said a movie.
He did say that. That.
So you're not here, Pete, but I'll give you props on that. You did call this one.
It's definitely been something that's been kicked around a lot.
Yeah.
Like, there's been a lot of
I've heard.
Well, it was already, I mean, this was this was the Berlanti was developing this.
Yeah.
Already.
He showed up at the end of Legends of Tomorrow. He's been on
He was on Smallville. Yeah.
I mean, my son, I told my son today, I just tweeted this. I was like, hey, do you want to hear what they're going to talk about for DC? And I told him everything. He's like, oh, cool. And I said, oh, and they're going to do a Booster Girl show. He's like, what? And he got really excited. I go, that's the thing that got you excited? And he was all, Dad, I grew up on Batman Brave and the Bold.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, there you go. And so
and it's
Booster
fun.
Gold's
I think
awesome.
there's a whole element of fun you can introduce with Booster Gold. You can have wacky hijinks. You can have suit malfunctions. You can have, writing checks your body can't cash. You can have man out of time. Like, I think,
and that was that weird Tom King arc, though. I didn't like too much.
Oh yeah, the Heroes in Crisis.
Yeah, there's weird, but that's it. But then again, Booster Gold's a really interesting character to throw in to a universe where you have access to the universe. He can time travel and do all, you can throw all kinds of stuff at the wind with,
as long as they do a wink to the greatest, one of the greatest Booster Gold thing in animation was actually the Justice League Unlimited episode where everyone called him Green Lantern. Was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
If you haven't seen that episode, it's such a fun episode, and it's focused on him, and they're all, thanks, Green Lantern.
Well, and he's also famous from his time, although he's a disgraced football star. He was a football star in the 25th century that travels back, with a time machine that's on display.
And a Legion ring.
He's Flash Gordon. No, go ahead.
Yeah. It may be
Booster Gold. My top three fan cast for Booster Gold. Alan Tudyk.
Oh man,
Mark Wahlberg or Tobey Maguire. Those are
smart. Okay, that was the only one they said they're talking to an actor about.
Did they?
Well, and everyone is assuming it's Chris Pratt. That's been the guy.
Oh my gosh,
that would be amazing.
That, I mean,
why
it would be
typecasting?
Like, it would be typecasting.
Yeah,
because he's Star-Lord.
Yeah,
it would be kind of. Yeah, it would feel kind of close, but I wouldn't hate that.
I'm on the record. I'm a big Chris Pratt fan. I think.
I don't think Chris Pratt's doing a TV show though. I mean, he's doing his Amazon show.
Oh, it is HBO. It does say HBO Max series, doesn't it?
Yeah, his style.
We're in the TV section.
Right? Yeah,
what did you say?
I said his style is perfect. Like the characters he plays. It would fit perfectly.
It would make sense. But you know,
I'm with Haas too. I agree with that. It's a lot.
Yeah. I'm conflict. I didn't even think about that because
I love the Safran.
James Gunn said that though. James Gunn said he
did say he would use others.
Yeah, characters.
Sure.
And he all but confirmed freaking Palm, what's her face, is going to be in DC movies.
Palm Clementine.
What could she be?
I don't know. Not Booster Gold, but
Magpie.
Sure. Magpie. Anyway, that's great. Yeah. Bring her back.
So, but I wonder if Booster Gold, like once like Blue Beetle comes out, if they can do like a little
100%. If Blue Beetle sticks around, I'm like, this thing could be so good. Yeah. Haas, I think you were starting to mention the way Safran sort of referred to him, which I got the quote here.
It's a great quote.
A loser from the future who uses basic future technology to come back to today and pretend to be a superhero. I don't know if I'm just a weirdo on my own, but I've often thought, if time travel was real, what kind of like real basic tech can I go back to the Middle Ages and convince people like I should take over? Like if you brought back a lighter,
he's like the goofy hero version of Reverse Flash, right? That's what Reverse Flash is.
Oh yeah. Except like kind of harmless, and he's actually trying to do some good stuff. Even with the wrong intentions.
Exactly.
I'm hyped on this one. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think all of these sound like a lot of fun. Before we wrap up here, let's just give me your quick hit 30-second overall takeaway with the news of today. Eric, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts, Reader Digest version from the champion of Long Island?
Well, first thing is the long wait is over. We have the plan now. We at least have the first part of the plan. So, and I'm optimistic about what we're going to get. I think they're covering a large swath of people with the characters they've chosen and the way they're going. Some are obviously super well known. Some are not known at all. And I think that's what you need to do to get people excited about a brand new DC universe of characters is give us what we know, bring us in. This is and Marvel kind of did this. And then you bring in the lesser knowns and build out the universe that way. So I'm optimistic. I'm excited. It's 2025. Things kick off. Let's go. All right, Justin, speaking of let's go, let's kick it over. Let's kick it over.
It'll never die. I think one of the top things is I'm glad it's more of a soft reboot than a hard stop, because there's still a lot of things that I think were good. I think we're too close to that universe to completely just reboot it. It doesn't make any sense. And so you can kind of flow out of the stuff that's already in the pipeline, so it doesn't feel so jarring. And I think once, Superman hits people and they love it, we're good. We're off to the races. But yeah, I'm mostly excited about everything we heard. I was kind of indifferent, like yesterday, like hopefully it's good. But today I was like, oh, okay. I feel a little pep in my DC step,
Yeah.
So, I'm excited. I'm excited to see stuff, and I'm optimistic for things I want to see more of. And I hope Gal sticks around, and I hope the things that I'm warm on get me excited when they come out. So
start heating you up as it gets closer.
Truth, justice, and the American way. That's all I'm gonna say.
Heck yeah, Mr. Haas, what do you thought? Shoot away, Sheriff.
There's stuff on this slate that is for me. There's some stuff that's not for me, which is totally fine. I think it kind of, this slate, like Eric was saying, it kind of represents a good wide tapestry of storytelling that I think is way more representative of what I know DC Comics can offer the world than any previous regime has so far. And that's not even counting the things that are outside of the slate, which they also have plans for to call things DC Elseworlds that don't fit with this. Like I assume Batman Caped Crusader, the animated series, will fit within that. They said existing things like Teen Titans Go and the Joker sequel and the Batman sequel will be part of that too. And so I think that's all really good, smart stuff. And not even really joking. Like it seems like the Batman the sequel got a title. It's just going to be the Batman Part 2, and that makes me more excited than anything else on the slate. But that's just because that's where my fandom lies most of all. But the one thing that I still have a question mark about this is that DC Studios is supposed to be like over film and television and video games. And I didn't hear one MF and video game mentioned in this entire slate. So I am questioning, like, okay, guys, like if you're that, like, if you and part of the thing is about it being super connected with everything, and I really strongly feel like trying to throw games into this is going to be a huge disaster.
It'll be tough, and you know better than anyone just what it takes to get a video game made.
Because it takes a lot to get a video
fit
game
into
made.
A window.
Yeah, video games are so notorious for delays in production and getting it right and all that kind of stuff. And if you're really going to if you really want something to fit into a story and keep up with where games go in the industry, I think it's going to be very difficult. And games take so long to make. It's compared to any of the other media on the slate. So I'm heavily questioning where their priorities lie in terms of games. So I don't have much stock in that necessarily. So my jury's still out as far as seeing how that's going to go. But everything else seems like they've kind of got it. And they've only been working on this since November, right? And they've got
but if he's been writing Creature Commandos, I feel like he had that leg up. Maybe he was working on stuff, and then they're like, "Hey, you want to just run this junk?"
Yeah, like that could have been something that was like in kind of like production before he took the actual job. But in terms of like he's got the job, he's on the lot. It was November 1st or whatever.
Well,
officially,
they made very clear, specifically mentioned a couple different times that you won't need to watch everything to enjoy other things. So you could have a video game take place in this universe, but not be a sequential storyline beat, right? So who knows? And maybe it's in the second half of the first chapter, right? This was the first half of the first chapter.
And there's a second half of the chapter. There's a multiverse thing they can't, that's part of this. That they can't say all the details for. So there's a lot. I mean, it's exciting. The half we already know, so I can only imagine what they're building to once we hear more.
Yeah, guys. My personal thoughts here is I didn't feel like I needed a slate to be presented. I know a lot of people did. If they were going to do it, I was going to be excited to hear what they had to say. This actually surpassed my expectations, and I'm in some ways I'm a pretty cheap date. If you can come out the gates and tell me the things you told me about your approach to Superman, I feel like that gives me enough of idea of what your thoughts on DC are. And not every DC property takes its lead from Superman. That certainly isn't the case. But I feel like you have to get Superman right in order to have a starting point and to be able to contrast different things away from this kind of course. So starting with Superman and like really just straight up like, God, these guys get it when they talked about Superman. That was almost enough for me, right? The rest of this I think is very interesting. I think it's going to be very interesting to have a Batman, very closely connected, if not overlapping with another Batman on the big screen. But I'm excited. I thought, it's a slate with a lot of variety to it. We're getting a lot of different flavors, but the core elements that need to be recognizable, need to be inspirational. You just need to nail these things. I felt like they had the right things to say about it. So I'm pumped. Fellas, before we wrap here, I know the listeners have an opportunity to either follow your social media or maybe listen to other projects you're doing right now. So if we could get some plugs, and then we'll send this thing to the editing room and get out of here. Mr. Holzmann, we've talked about it enough. Straight Out of Gotham was basically the first 15 minutes was an advertisement for your podcast. But what else do you want to tell the listeners?
Well, if you want to talk to us on the podcast, you can find us on Twitter at @straight_O_G. That is manned by both myself and Peter Vera, my co-host. If you want to hit me up directly on Twitter, it's @finally33, spelled finale 33. You can check me out over there. I will throw this in just because I can. If you are a fan of the New York Knicks and you want to talk about it, listen to me and a couple of my buddies talk about the Knicks. We do a live stream every Wednesday night at 9:00 or after the game that night. And if you want to hit us up on Twitter, it's @all_Nick_up.
Thank you, Eric. Justin, what do you got for us, man?
Hi, you could follow me on Twitter at Justin M. Kowalski. Boom.
Rest in peace, J_Rocka.
Been like more than 2 years since I've had
We miss J Rocka.
Yeah, J Rocka forever.
It's still in my heart. And then you can find me on any show you want that I'm on, I guess. I think the next show I'll be on is the next episode of Batman 89 chapter by chapter with me and whoever wants to be on.
Oh, dang it. I need to get on that show.
This is a good chapter coming up. It's a good chapter.
Ooh.
The next chapter is the Joker reveal.
Okay.
Ooh,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's work on the old, pull out the old
it's me,
schedule.
Sugar Bumps.
Yeah, I love that. Oh gosh, nothing will.
Oh, good.
James Gunn has some work cut out for him.
There's some high watermarks to hit in the DC film catalog.
Yes.
All right, Ryan Haas.
Yes.
What do you got, man?
Follow me on Twitter, I guess, at SMB_Ryan. You can see my little inspired fan cast tweets, and I'm sure we're going to get so many of them over the next few years. And just, I guess, at the moment, just follow the Batman Podcast Network at BatPod Network, and the BOF podcast feed is just exploding lately. You just subscribe to that one feed, listeners, and you get like 87 shows. You get like this podcast, you get Batman Animation, you get the Social Hour, you get Chapter by Chapter, and who knows what other fun things might frolic into your feed. You don't know.
I don't know.
Frolic.
So just look back on the feed and see, and I'm in plenty of those types of things.
I've been working on a satellite show to even bring that back into the mix. You know, how many podcasts can you get on one feed? It's just, it's a free for all.
Bill keeps telling me I need to do the Batman Game Club, so it might come back.
Yeah, absolutely do
at some point.
We got plenty of stuff to talk about. I appreciate you guys joining for the conversation. You know, there's more stories being written about the news release today than anyone can read in just a few hours. So we'll be able to talk more about everything presented in future episodes of the podcast. Speaking of shows on the feed, you'll notice we kept things very focused on the DCU and the connected DC universe going forward. There was also information on, more information about Reeves in the Batman universe. Look forward to, very near future on your feed, a social hour with Bill talking about that. So you'll get that slice of news over from Bill in the near future as well. But we're going to have a lot to talk about, even in the upcoming weeks. But as these things get into production and as we have other movies that are released, other Bat news that drops. So I'd love to keep the conversation going. You know me, I'm a chatty guy. I just keep on talking to you. You can keep on talking to me. You can do that over on Twitter. Follow me at Garret Wato. That is at GarretWato. And if there's anything you want to hear us talk about on this podcast, Justin is driving me crazy right now looking at He-Man action figures, and I can barely concentrate. If you want to tell me, Garret, do a He-Man satellite episode, I'll do that. That's from the Origins line. That's a good looking Skeletor right there. Drop me a line. You can find my email it's just garret.grev at batmanonfilm.com. That's GARRET.GREV at batman-on-film.com. We're going to have a lot of articles up. We'll have a lot of podcasts up, so don't miss any of them. For that kind of news update from what's going on at the site, articles, podcasts, whatever news, you can follow the news feed. That's at the Batman on Film, all one word, the Batman on Film over on Twitter. And remember, dear listeners, as we discuss all these things, it's not who you are underneath. It's not if you are a gun cultist, as some people would say, or if you are a zaddy, as other people say. We don't care what you believe. It's what you do that defines you. Thank you for listening.
You have been listening to the official podcast of the one and only Batman on Film website. On Twitter, follow BOF at Batman on Film and the Batman Podcast Network at BatPod Network. For Jet and everyone at Batman on Film, I'm announcer Rachel. Thanks for listening to the authoritative, definitive, the original Batman on Film.